The first snow of the year had just begun to fall when Clara Jennings stepped out onto the porch of her cabin perched at the edge of Pinehollow Woods. The flakes drifted down slowly, swirling in the air like tiny dancers. Clara wrapped her wool scarf tighter around her neck and lifted the lantern she held. Its warm golden glow cast a soft circle of light around her boots, catching on the new snow. She hadn't expected to be out tonight. In fact, she'd planned on making herself a cup of cinnamon tea and settling by the fireplace with her old tabby cat sprawled across her lap. But then the knock had come, soft, hesitant, almost apologetic. And when Clara had opened the door, she found a trembling teenager standing there, cheeks flushed red both from cold and what looked unmistakably like fear. "My brother," the girl had said, breathless. "He went into the woods. He hasn't come back. That was 20 minutes ago." Clara had listened quietly, allowing the girl to speak through her frantic breaths. "His name is Oliver," she had explained. "He's 8. He got upset and ran out while I was cooking dinner. I thought he was just hiding in the yard, but then I found footprints heading toward the forest. I called the neighbors, but no one's home and my parents won't be back until tomorrow morning. They're visiting my aunt in the city. I didn't know who else to go to." Clara had nodded immediately. People often forgot that she used to be Pinehollow's volunteer search coordinator. For years she had helped find lost hikers, runaway dogs, and once even a pair of adventurous toddlers who had decided to build a secret mountain fort somewhere behind their house. Clara knew these woods as well as she knew the lines on her own palms. And so here she was now, lantern in hand, stepping into the growing snowstorm with the frightened sister, whose name was Hannah, hurrying behind her. "Stay close," Clara said gently. "These paths can get tricky once the snow thickens." Hannah nodded, wiping her nose with her sleeve. She looked so small bundled in her oversized coat, her breath puffing white clouds into the air. Clara walked carefully, scanning the ground for the faint indentations of small boots. They were still visible, but the snowfall was quickly softening and swallowing them. "How long ago did he leave?" Clara asked. "Maybe an hour before I came to you," Hannah said. Her voice cracked at the end. Clara slowed her stride so the girl could keep up. "We'll find him," she murmured, and she hoped her voice sounded as steady as she meant it to be. Oliver's footprints led them past the hollow stump near the creek, the place kids in town liked to call Fairy Post Office, because locals often left little carved wooden gnomes or handwritten wishes tucked inside. Clara paused and held up the lantern. Snowflakes sparkled in its light like drifting stars. "He's nearby," she said quietly. "Kids his age don't usually wander too far in heavy snow." Hannah swallowed hard. "He doesn't like the dark." Clara nodded thoughtfully. She didn't like thinking of the boy scared and alone in the freezing woods. The temperature was dropping quickly now, the kind of cold that crept through coats and skin and into bones if you stood still too long. They continued onward, following the faint trail until it veered toward a narrow gap between bushes. Oliver must have pushed through the branches, they were bent inward, brushing with fresh snow. Clara guided Hannah through the gap and emerged on the other side, where the trees became denser. A sudden gust sent a cloud of snow swirling around them. Hannah flinched. "This place is scary," she whispered. "It's only scary because it's unfamiliar," Clara said, lowering her lantern so its warmth lit their faces. "But these woods have saved people more times than they've harmed them." Hannah sniffed. "Really?" "Oh yes," Clara said with a small smile. "There was one winter I was out here looking for a hiker who'd taken a wrong turn. Just when I thought I'd lost the trail, a deer appeared, walked slowly ahead of me, pausing now and then to make sure I was still following. And guess where she led me? Straight to the lost hiker." Hannah blinked. "Are you serious?" 100%. For the first time, the girl's face relaxed slightly. Clara lifted her lantern again and scanned the area. "Oliver," she called out. Her voice echoed lightly through the trees. "Oliver, it's Clara Jennings. We're here to bring you home." Only the whisper of the wind answered. Hannah cupped her hands around her mouth and shouted, "Ollie. Ollie, please answer." But there was nothing. Clara took a slow breath. "Let's keep moving. The sooner we find shelter or footprints, the better." They walked deeper into the woods, sometimes stopping so Clara could kneel and examine the ground. They found a fresh scuff mark on a rock, likely the toe of a boot hitting it. They found a broken twig. They found a little knitted glove half buried in snow. Hannah gasped when she saw it. That's his. I made him that pair. Clara lifted the glove gently. He's close. Just then, a faint sound drifted through the trees, so faint that Clara almost thought she imagined it. Did you hear that? She asked. Hannah's eyes widened. I think that was him. They held their breath. And then the sound came again, clearer this time, a soft, shaky sob. Hannah darted forward, but Clara caught her hand. Slow. Panicking can get us both lost. Let me lead. They moved toward the sound, the lantern lighting their path in a trembling pool of gold. The snow fell thicker now, turning the forest into a blur of white and shadow. Oliver. Clara called again. The sobbing grew louder. Moments later, they found him huddled against a fallen log, knees drawn to his chest, eyes wide with fear. He was shivering violently, his other glove missing, his hair dotted with snowflakes. Ollie. Hannah cried, and rushed to him. Oliver buried his face in her coat, sobbing uncontrollably. I didn't know how to get back, he whimpered. I thought the snow monsters were gonna get me. There are no monsters, Hannah said softly, stroking his head. You scared me so much. Oliver sniffled. I'm sorry. Clara kneeled in front of him. You did the right thing staying put once you didn't know your way, she said gently. Wandering would have made it harder for us to find you. Oliver lifted his head slightly. His lips were pale, and he looked exhausted. Clara took off her own thick gloves and slid them over his tiny freezing hands. Here, she said softly. Let's get you warm. She shrugged off her heavy coat and draped it around both siblings. Share your body heat. That'll keep him warm while I figure out the quickest route back. Hannah hesitated. But you'll be cold. I'll manage, Clara said with a warm smile. She stood and looked around. The snow had erased most of their trail. The wind picked up again, biting and sharp. Clara's concern deepened. The way they had come was nearly invisible now. She held the lantern up higher. The flame shuddered but held steady. Stay close, she said as she led them forward. She chose a path she knew well, one that curved toward a small clearing. If they could reach the clearing, they would be able to see the faint lights of Pinehollow through the trees. But the snowstorm worsened. The wind howled now, pushing against them. Oliver's steps became sluggish. Hannah's cheeks reddened with cold. Clara kept speaking softly as they walked, mostly for the boys' sake, partly to keep them all calm. Did you know, she said, that once during a storm like this, I found a hiker who had wrapped himself in pine branches and built a little snow wall to block the wind. Nature gives us solutions if we look closely. Oliver's voice came out tiny. What solution is here? Clara smiled. Me, she said simply. Just when Clara began to worry they might have to shelter under a rock ledge she knew nearby, the wind shifted slightly, and a faint orange glow flickered in the distance. Hannah pointed. Is that a house? Clara narrowed her eyes. Not a house. That's the old Ranger Lookout Tower. They keep a lantern burning there during storms so people can navigate. Relief flooded Hannah's face. Oliver, too exhausted to speak, leaned heavily against his sister. Clara tightened her grip on the lantern. We're close now. Just follow me. They trudged forward, the glow growing brighter with each step. Soon the towering wooden structure emerged through the swirling snow like a lighthouse on land. Clara helped the children climb the short steps to the sheltered platform beneath it. There was a metal bench inside and a storage box containing emergency blankets. Clara wrapped the kids in them and placed Oliver directly beside the lantern's heat. Rest for a moment, she said. Once you've warmed up, we can continue the short walk to town. Hannah looked at her with tear-filled eyes. Thank you, she whispered. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't come. Clara brushed snow from her shoulders. Anyone would have helped. Hannah shook her head. No. I asked 2 houses and no one answered. And I don't know the woods. And you didn't even hesitate. Clara's throat tightened. Everyone deserves to be found, she said softly. Oliver suddenly reached for her hand. His small fingers wrapped around hers with surprising strength. "I wasn't really scared once I heard your voice," he said quietly. "It sounded like when the lights come back on after being off for a long time." Clara felt warmth bloom in her chest. "I'm glad." After 10 minutes, Oliver's shivering slowed. Clara helped him stand, wrapping the blanket around him like a cloak. They stepped back into the snow, which had eased a little now. As promised, once they reached the clearing, the distant lights of Pinehollow twinkled like stars through the trees. The rest of the walk was slow but steady, and when they finally emerged from the woods, Hannah let out a sob of relief. Clara walked them home. The heater inside the house was running, casting a golden warmth over everything. She settled Oliver on the couch and handed Hannah her coat back. "Make him warm tea," Clara instructed. "And call your parents as soon as possible." Hannah nodded vigorously. "I will." "Oh, I almost forgot." She ran into the hallway and returned holding a small jar of homemade strawberry jam. Clara blinked, surprised. "What's this?" "It's not much," Hannah said, cheeks reddening. "But it's the nicest thing we have to give. My mom makes a lot of jam. Anne, I want you to have it. For helping us. For not letting my brother stay lost." Clara accepted the jar slowly, touched beyond words. "Thank you," she said. "But you two being safe, that's more than enough." Oliver tugged at her sleeve again. "Will you teach me how to not be scared of the woods someday?" Clara smiled, kneeling so she could meet his eyes. "Absolutely," she said. "But only when the weather's much nicer." He nodded with a sleepy smile. Clara stood and headed toward the door. "Try to get some rest now." Hannah stopped her before she stepped outside. "Clara." "Yes." "You didn't just find him," Hannah said, voice trembling. "You lit the way for both of us." Clara felt the weight of those words settle gently in her heart like a warm blanket. She gave the girl a soft nod. "Good night, Hannah." "Good night." Clara closed the door behind her and stepped back into the quiet winter evening. The snow had slowed to a peaceful drift. She lifted her lantern once more, its golden light glowing against the night. As she walked home, she realized something. Sometimes kindness wasn't about grand gestures or heroic rescues. Sometimes it was simply about lighting a lantern for someone lost, someone afraid, someone who needed a little warmth in the cold. And sometimes, she thought with a smile, the lantern lit the one carrying it too.